Right. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. I'm sure everybody's heard that quote sometime in their lives. Before I made this video, I didn't even know what I was going to talk about. And that was the first thing that came to mind, was the idea of, quote, the truth. And it got me thinking, and I decided I would post a little video and discuss my thoughts on this. And it does tie into partially why I haven't actually made a video in a few weeks here. My channel got a strike against it for my video talking about something specifically, which I won't even mention anymore. The point being that there are certain topics which the truth about those topics are very relative to what the experts say. Now, I've always been on the side of the experts, so I'm not the guy who always believes the underdog and thinks that all scientists are lying to us or that all politicians are liars. Even though, on the politician side, I would lean more towards most politicians being liars. And many scientists are as well, because they're paid off by companies who have confirmation bias. But we'll get to that. The point here, to start off with that line, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can't handle the truth. I believe the first time I heard that was from a movie. And if I'm not mistaken, it was either Full Metal Jacket or Platoon. One of those, 90s, I think they were 90s, war movies. Maybe even late 80s. It's hard to remember. No, I'm pretty sure they were 90s. Anyhow, I would say I was about 16. And this year I'll be 46. So 30 years ago, hearing that term, and I thought back to all the different meanings that that's had during my life. The "you can't handle the truth" quote. When I was younger, I may have been naive enough to think that anyone can handle the truth, that we're all adult enough to be able to handle the truth. In fact, from some of the earliest memories I have in my, say, early teen years, about wondering when I discovered that the government had always lied, and I read some of these books about, cover-ups and conspiracies, my first thoughts were not really, oh my God, how do we stop this, but rather, why do people lie? And more than that, going to ask, why do people believe it? Even when we know we're being lied to, quite often. And it seems that being deceived is not just something we do as humans, but it's something that we as humans have the nature to be deceived. So it's easy to deceive others, and it's easy to be deceived, because we trust. Fortunately, I consider myself a rather trustworthy person. And fortunately, I consider most other people trustworthy. Doesn't mean I haven't been ripped off and wronged in my life. I certainly have. I've been bullied and abused. I remember thinking back to school, I've always thought, I had this image that, oh, I can stand up for myself, because I got in a fight in like 8th grade, and we got in this fist fight, and the guy left me alone from then on. But before that, I remember it was always the bullies in the school messing with me. And I thought, I was the tall guy, I was the big guy, but I was still, I didn't know the truth about myself, rather, I guess. When you're young, you don't know how much power you really have. If I had had more truth in my life about words, how to use them properly, how to use my fisticuff battle, how to use my fist in fisticuffs, rather. These things, these things grow in time, and then you look back and say, why didn't I know that? Simple things. And knowledge is that way. The more you have, the more you build, the more you realize, God, my life would have been a lot easier if I had known that before. Perhaps it's knowing how to sign up for some sort of a program that'll help you financially. Perhaps it's just knowing where to look for a certain product that people desire that's out in the woods that you can go get because you need money. Those kinds of things. My brother and I used to collect barn owl pellets because when he was younger, he discovered that there was a market for it. This biological company, a few of them, would buy these owl pellets, which without going into detail, owls eat their mice whole, rodents, then they digest it in their first stomach and regurgitate the bones and the hair in a ball. I'm sure most of you have seen an owl pellet, which is just bones and hair. So they sterilize them, they send them off to kindergartens and schools, and the kindergartners dissect them to figure out what the owls ate. Just one little thing that people need because they use it for educational purposes. We'd have a great time collecting them. Nobody else knew about it. The minute that truth got out, you know. But these are just, I'm starting off light here because these are just things that in our daily life, it's more like knowledge than truth. But the truth comes with the aspect of it that we can do it for ourselves. We have more power within ourselves than we realize and give ourselves credit for. I, for one, know that I fail to live up to my own inner power a lot of the time, that I could do more, I could do better. But, you know, there's a certain amount of tolerance level. I go through phases, which is what this video was originally going to be about. Because as I said, when I made that video a couple weeks ago, my channel was deleted for 2 weeks. Basically, well, I couldn't upload to this channel. About 2 days ago, they released that, you know, ban on me uploading. And I thought, oh, I'm going to upload a video right away, but I never did. And I realized I've been going through this phase where I'm not interested as much in making videos. But then there's a moment where I just feel like talking. And these phases help teach me truths about myself. Like, I can acknowledge how I feel in a certain morning and know it's going to be one of these days. It's not like a self-programming, but rather an awareness of the self. Let me bring it to something a little heavier here. The truth, as the video topic when I was talking about health and health care, this comes down to medicines, natural medicines, pharma, things like that. If it's my truth that a certain herb helps me, one in particular that starts with a K, that I've been taking for a decade now. It's a phenomenal plant. I love it. It helps me with anxiety, helps me with depression, helps me with several different things. But there are still people out there who do not want it talked about. Who are they? Well, concerned parents, just like with the spice craze or any of these other drugs that have come out into the public eye where all of a sudden everyone panics. Remember when salvia was all over the news and all the kids were getting high and running around naked and going crazy and they need to ban this? Guess what? They still sell it down the street from my house. People aren't that interested in it. Natural products have a way of finding themselves to the people that want them, but that's beside the point. The whole thing was when the truth really came out about salvia, you know, the reality, it was like, okay, it's not something that everyone's going to do and go crazy, right? Same thing with spice or K2. People tried it, people didn't like it. Some do, people are going to be idiots anyway. The same crazes go back to the truth about cannabis. Now, anybody who hasn't seen Reefer Madness has to see it, but back in the 30s, I think it was 37, when Anslinger decided to ban cannabis and make all cannabis users look like dope fiends, it was originally to tamp down on the Mexicans and the black jazz musicians because they were the ones that used cannabis. And in the 60s, there was a huge counterculture movement against the war, made America look bad. Well, once again, there were many different mixed races, and they were all using drugs and partying together, so naturally you're going to ban psychedelics. The same thing happened with the rave scene, with MDMA. There were no major deaths with any of these substances. They were just banned because it made people look bad. Yet this truth evaded the public for decades. Now people see that cannabis isn't what they were taught it was. But think about how many other truths you're being bullshitted by. As I said earlier, the tobacco industry convinced us for years that tobacco wasn't bad. Just like the oil industry convinced us that climate change isn't real, it's all a hoax, and it's just to sell green energy. Even though you can look at the papers that were released and declassified and studies from the 60s from companies like Chevron, Exxon, Shell, saying, we realize that with carbon emissions, we are going to add to the climate and we could cause a shift in the global climate. They knew this as scientists working for these companies. Yet people still close their eyes to it. And what I'm getting at here is that even when the truth comes out about something, if it's too late and people are stuck in their ways, they're never going to believe it. It doesn't matter how sure you are. It doesn't matter how much evidence you have, how many facts you have. The truth has to reveal itself to people individually. Same thing is happening with what's going on with this current epidemic, pandemic, See, even using that word puts this video into the algorithms and the AI. The minute I said that word, the AI bots picked up on this video, and as soon as I upload it, they will scan through the video and it will not be advertiser friendly, which is why I just don't bother with ads. I signed up for AdSense a while back and thought, what a waste. It's pointless. I want to be able to talk about subjects I want to be able to talk about. So screw the ads. So even when I did and left the ads out, YouTube decided to give me a strike against my channel for having an opinion. Okay? Having an opinion is important to me. And I think it is to you too. I may not be right about what I say, but I've always tried to follow up my opinions with maybe not facts, but if I don't have facts, then I will tell you it's an opinion. And that brings me to, I guess, the point about facts. What the hell is a fact, right? I think all of us remember a couple years back when I think it was Kellyanne Conway, when she was asked and said that your facts aren't real facts. And she says, well, these are alternative facts. I know that comment is played out, but it is so imperative to remember that this is something that really actually happens, not just with somebody arguing with their neighbor over something or somebody arguing with a relative, but an assistant to the highest position in the entire land, in the world, one of the most important communicate positions from the president to the people, says, we have alternative facts. Sink in for a minute. This is a dangerous time in history. We've always used alternative facts, but we've never been so damn blatant about it as to actually admit it. I think that this is a time in history we're going to look back on and say, either, wow, that was the moment when we were at rock bottom and we finally pulled out of this stupidity, or B, wow, that was when all this shit began and now we've fallen from grace as human beings. I know that there are a lot of liars out there, a lot of charlatans, a lot of scammers, and it's really easy to just focus on those people out there who are trying to take your money, who are trying to convince you they're right. And I know, and I've met plenty of people who are suspect of everyone, and I was one of them at one time. So I guess if there's any message to convey here, it would be, don't be one of those people who is suspicious of everyone. I would rather trust people and get screwed over once in a while, but at least have my values, than completely ignore everyone, assume everyone's an idiot, judge people, and walk away with no friends. You're gonna get let down. You're gonna get ripped off. People will steal shit from your front yard. They'll steal your car from your driveway. They'll steal a statue of, oh God, what was it, Saint? It was like I had this huge, like 2-foot concrete statue in the front yard of the saint that has all the animals on him and everything. He's got the little monk shaved head. Somebody stole it from my yard. But the irony there was, I realized at that moment, now this was years ago, I realized that a decade before that, I'd stole that same statue. I was drinking one night. I hopped a fence at some nursery down my house. I was like 19. Took this statue and a couple little bonsais, and I still feel horrible about it. And, so I got something taken, and I could look at that as karma. I guess. I don't really, because, there were many incidents. The point is that I've been ripped off, but there are incidents where I've done stupid things too. I'll tell you this, when I was younger, I didn't steal from people, and it was my rule from young to never steal from people. I never stole from a friend. I never picked up anything from anyone's house, ever. Never once stole something from a person. But for some reason, I let that guard down when it came to stores. Grocery stores, oh, they got insurance, they don't care. And so I used to go in and load my backpack up with candy bars and stuff. And then looking back on it years later, I felt like an idiot. I was just chasing some sort of a buzz, I guess. But the point being, I came to a truth with myself, with parts of myself. I'm not I'm not all rainbows and unicorns, of course. I'm sure most of you know that. I've got a history of One time I went into the woods with my friend, chopped down a tree for no reason. I don't know why. We chopped down our own trees. They weren't that big, but 10-inch trees out in the in a state park, mind you. Yeah, I could confess to a million crimes. In fact, one of my friends actually flipped a train. He unhooked all the air brakes from a train, a whole bunch of parked cars. We used to play around on the trains and hop them, and which is illegal. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he pulled all the air brakes out and detached and decoupled like 10 cars full of bark chips. Started rolling back down the slope towards the train bridge. And as it came around the corner, the whole thing swayed and tipped over and all the way down this huge hill. They had helicopters and cranes coming in there. And the only reason I'm telling the story is because he did get caught. So the price has already been paid. So I can't get anybody in trouble on that one. And I had nothing to do with that one. I was a stinker, but, I jumped in the train tunnel and I'd party on the train bridge and we'd start fires and do stupid things, but never anything like that. I don't know why I'm leading into that. I guess because it's truth. It's truth about my past. And I guess it's my way of saying we need to come to grips with who we are as individuals and be honest in order to ever come to grips with the way other people are. No matter how pious, no matter how arrogant you may be, or how great you might think you are, or how crappy you might think you are, you're most likely misjudging and mischaracterizing yourself. I've grown a lot in my life. I've made a lot of mistakes. Fortunately, no big ones. I've ended up with a wonderful wife and an awesome family, and I am so grateful to be where I am in life. You couldn't really give me anything more. I mean, sure, we'd all like to be financially independent for life, but sometimes I've asked myself even that. What is the truth about what I really want? And I don't even know. Say, well, what if I was rich? Would that make me happy? No, probably not, but it sure would help me to go do fun things. But eventually, the point is that when you look at the bigger picture, you see that life is more complicated than just being happy or having money or a good job. It's an ongoing challenge, and that is the truth that I think is the most important one for us to face. We can look at truths about the world, climate change, about genetics, about other things that I won't say the words of because I'll probably get my video deleted again. The truth about censorship. And this is why I don't support censorship in any way, shape, or form. There was a time when I thought that we could actually curb issues of hate by perhaps, kicking people off a platform if they're hateful or they use hate speech. But then I started asking myself, what is hate speech? And I had to come to terms with myself as a liberal human being, American citizen, that I do not support banning hate speech. And that was kind of a conundrum for me because I don't want to hear what other people have to say when it's hateful. But you know what? If you start cutting out any discussion about these topics, pretty soon you can't even say anything bad about Israel without being anti-Semitic. Will my video get removed if I say something bad about what's going on over there? If I show support for Palestinians or say the fact that Israel bombed AP headquarters, the media. I mean, there is some stuff going on in the world that is so... and the reason I brought that up is because when they were asked about it, he claimed that, there's enemies in the tunnels or that they were supporting enemies. But this was a well-known press building, and they blew it up. They gave them warning. They knew who was in there. You wouldn't give a building a warning of an hour to evacuate if you were after a specific group of people that were in that building. The point was that when they were asked, they said it was the enemy, but really the enemy is the press. Because the press, the media, is the last freaking wall we have, the last connection we have to the world around us. I know a lot of you would like to think that we can have alternative media and that everyone who's giving you the news from their own phones has the full story. It takes more than one guy recording on his phone or even on a good camera, even with a small camera crew, to really process what's going on with some of these bigger stories and to get the full picture. And even with internet and the vast amount of information we have, we still can't obtain the truth. We complained about the media lying about events forever, and look at us today. We're stuck in the same situation because we can't get the full picture. We need good journalists to bring us the truth. And AP has a lot of good journalists, and that's why they probably took out the building, because they don't want you to sympathize with the enemy of them. I don't believe in settlers, let's say, and this is where this started. This whole thing in the Middle East is not about really the ongoing battle between two sides, but the idea that anytime you use the word settler, it usually means you're settling on someone else's land. Otherwise, you'd be homesteading. So anyway, maybe that part at the end there would get my video deleted in itself. I don't know. Don't really care anymore. If I can't talk about these topics, then there's no point in even having a YouTube channel, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm still going to push the boundaries. I do still talk about certain things on my other channels and my podcast. I can talk about whatever I want. So I need to get one done. It's been a couple weeks and I've kind of delayed. So thanks for listening. Hope you all are having a wonderful day. The truth is complicated. Best we can do is know the truths about ourselves. And that means being honest with ourselves. So be honest with yourself, damn it. I'm trying. Peace.